Hello, I'm Annette Young and welcome back to a brand new series of the 51%, a show about women reshaping our world. In this special edition, we're taking a look at a growing demographic trend that's emerging in various parts of the world. That is women not having children, be it through circumstance or by choice. It's a demographic that can't be ignored. For instance, in the UK, an estimated 1 in 5 women are entering their 40s are childless. In Germany, 22% of women are also reaching their early 40s without having children. As well, there's been a steep rise in childless women in the United States. In 1976, 35% of women of fertile age were childless. Today, that number is an estimated 49%. So, with me today are 2 women who are not mothers. Karen Enfield, who's from the Netherlands, is childless by circumstance and also the European facilitator for Gateway Women, a global support network for childless women. Also with me is British photographer Denise Falcon, who is childless by choice and author of the book Mum's Not the Word. And thanks to both of you for joining us today. Let me start by saying that being childless by choice as opposed to childless by circumstance are 2 very, very different stories. Yet, regardless, it's still not easy being a childless woman in a society that glorifies motherhood, is it?
Yes, absolutely. It's tough at times, and you always feel that you're walking around with a certain stigma or a label attached to you because of the situation that we're in.
And Denise?
You're being questioned on why your experience of not having children, and people want to know why you don't have children and want some sort of backup story when you're constantly challenged.
So what sort of discrimination have you faced?
I've been called names like selfish, barren, crazy cat lady. I've also been told I'm isolated. So just negativity regarding not having children.
And Karen, yourself, I imagine you have also faced such sort of accusations.
Yeah, and for me, perhaps not so much as accusations. It's more that people make assumptions because I'm a woman in my 40s now that, oh, are you married? Yes, I am. Do you have children? No, I don't. Oh, why didn't you want children? And then my story is a little bit different, that I can't have children following cervical cancer and having to undergo a hysterectomy because of that. And then when my husband and I looked into the process of either adoption or surrogacy, it turned out that wasn't an option for us after all, for many reasons I won't go into here today. So I get more the pity vote, and the pity responses, like, oh, poor you. Oh, that must be horrible. But at least you have plenty of time to do other things. You know, at least you can travel. Or
so basically, unthinking
yes,
comments,
very much so,
which can be very hurtful.
Oh, very, very, absolutely. And I recognise the comments that you've been getting, which are just as hurtful. So yeah, it's. I think we're both in the same. Dealing with the same discrimination and the same responses.
Yet, according to recent British research, unmarried childless women, they say, are much more likely to live longer than their child-rearing peers. They're more likely to be happy. So why do people struggle to recognise this? Why do they see that, you know, a woman doesn't necessarily have to be solely defined as being a mother or not being a mother?
Yeah, I fully agree with you. And I even am now at the point, after having come through my initial grief about not being able to have children, I now feel that my childlessness doesn't define me as a woman anymore. I'm much more than the childless person.
Denise?
I think that women can produce in different ways. We don't necessarily have to be having children. You know, I'm an artist, so I'm constantly producing, creating art, or it could be, you know, gardening or work, career, etc. There's many different ways to produce beyond child rearing.
Let's just take a pause for a moment, because here in France, a growing number of women are choosing not to have kids, and by being child-free by choice still carries a huge stigma, as we've been hearing. This report from Naomi Lloyd.
In love, in their 30s, While many couples at their stage of life might be planning a family, Maxence and Tiffany say parenthood is not for them.
Since I was a child, as far back as I can remember, even very little, I would say to my mum I wouldn't have children. It hasn't changed and it's not going to.
Tiffany's partner Maxence has also never wanted children. 2 years ago he decided to have a vasectomy. At barely 25 years old, many would see it as an extreme decision, but he says it's changed his life.
I cried and I said to myself, there we are, it's over. I cannot procreate anymore. And my partner said to me on that day, I love you.
The number of French people choosing not to have kids is on the rise. Around 5% say they don't want children. 30-year-old Laura's life revolves around her beloved vinyl records. She travels all over France to sell them, working long hours and often at weekends. She says there wouldn't be room in her life to devote to a child.
I don't want to sacrifice my freedom because my work is my freedom. It's very selfish, but that's what I choose for myself.
Laura and her partner share a passion for travel and want to get married. She says that having to tell her partner she didn't want children was the hardest part, as she thought she might lose him.
It's a huge sign of his love for me, for him to be okay with what I want. I can't really express how in that moment I understood how much he loves me, because he has accepted that I don't want children, and that's a sacrifice on his part.
No sacrifice for Maxence and Tiffany. Concerned about climate change and a scarcity of resources, they don't want to contribute to the overpopulation of the planet. The couple say they're often labelled as selfish for not wanting a child.
Even though many others would need to be child-free for us to have a positive impact on the planet, at least we don't have a negative impact, but having a child does. We're not the selfish ones.
Choosing not to have children is still a taboo subject. Psychologists say society can regard those who don't procreate as going against nature.
We're all in a cycle between a birth and a death, and someone who disrupts that cycle is seen as a source of anxiety, of anguish even. That's to say, something that isn't the norm.
While some in society may struggle to comprehend, Maxence, Tiffany and Laura have all chosen a life free of children, but one of deep fulfilment.
Now with me in the studio is British photographer Denise Falcon, who is childless by choice and author of this lovely book, Mum's Not the Word. Denise, tell me a little bit about your story. Why did you choose not to have children?
My dad died when I was very young, and I'm the youngest of 4 girls. So my mother brought us up on her own, and from a very early age I saw my mother struggle, and I used to watch her and think, I don't want to do that when I'm older. And I verbalised this first time to her when I was 19, and I said to her, I don't want children, and she said, oh, you'll feel different when you're older. I'm now 51, I don't have children, and I never did feel different.
And tell me, what inspired you to sort of, do this book?
Because I think within the history of art, photography, the media, the childless woman is totally unrepresented. So I kind of, as a photographer, you're looking at a project that hasn't been done before, but also something that comes deep within you. And it's something I feel so passionate about that I felt, I'm the right person to make this project.
I want to ask both of you that this is a demographic that's clearly on the rise. How do we rid society of cultural misconceptions that to be a childless woman is to be classified as a failure?
I think what I am struggling most is that we live in a patriarchal society where indeed as a woman, the ultimate achievement that you can reach is motherhood almost, and that is still to this day very much ingrained in the whole way our system works, to be honest with you. And of course, with me being childless by circumstance, is that I never wanted this. I didn't choose for this. And I could easily hide behind the fact, my sob story almost like, oh, but poor me, my womb was removed, so that's where it ended for me, end of story. However, for me, I do find it very important that and that's why I do what I do, is that I also make it clear to the world and to society that, you know what, I'm much more than that. So I can actually still actively contribute to society. And I remember, they always used to say, it takes a village to raise a child. Well, then let me be part of that village as well.
Denise, the need for role models, I imagine, is also important. I mean, it's a message that needs to get across, surely, that women's lives without children can still be extraordinarily rich.
I think that there's a lot of role models out there, and Gateway Women, they have something on their website, like, there's my heroes, like Blondie, as in Susie in the Banshees, Florence Nightingale. There's many women out there that don't have children, but it's not really broadcast about these people, them not having children.
It also has enormous implications, this demographic trend, in terms of for governments, for instance, such as ageing without children. I mean, that is clearly an issue that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, definitely. And it is something that I have given a lot of thought myself as well, that, okay, who's going to take care of me when I'm older? I'm looking at my parents. They are in their mid-70s at the moment, and they have each other, they have children, and we all gather around them to make sure that they are looked after. Who's going to do that for me? And I'm even now contemplating, cohabitation projects. I've looked into those kind of things, as well as what you just mentioned earlier about Gateway Women. We also see that discussion coming up very much in that community as well.
And Denise?
I'm asked that question a lot. What are you going to do when you're older? Are you going to regret it when you're older? Some of the participants from my project who never wanted children all their lives are now in their 60s, and they say they're beginning to regret it because now they're seeing that they're not having grandchildren. I kind of think that I'm just accepting what's happening now. So who knows if I'm going to be around in 20 years or not. So I'm not worrying about it at the moment.
Denise and Karen, I want to thank both of you for coming in today. And that's it for now. You can also connect with us via our Facebook page, that of course being France24.51%, or do send us a tweet at _51%. So until our next show, bye for now.